It all begins with Touka Mimori, a boy who is being mistreated by his father, who always seeks a reason to hit him. Mimori apologizes repeatedly without knowing what is happening, while his own mother simply ignores him. Suddenly, he wakes up on a bus. It was a memory. Now he is on a school trip. He watches as one of his classmates, Oyamada, is bothering the class representative named Sogu, mocking her for reading a romance novel while the popular kids laugh at this and the others seem not to exist, like their teacher who is sleeping. The representative asks him to return her book, but Oyamada does not intend to do so. It is then that our protagonist intervenes, telling him to return it. Surprised, Amada mocks the fact that the nobody is rebelling. It is then that a popular boy named Kirihara tells Oyamada to return the book to Sogu, but Oyamada seeks Kirihara's help to teach Mimori a lesson for rebelling. However, Kirihara tells him that he has no interest in Mimori and that he should give the novel back to Sogu immediately, adding that his attitude is starting to disgust him. Amada returns it and apologizes to Sogu. Annoyed by this, Oyamada sits down and starts bothering another boy, this time Yasu, until the teacher asks him to stop. Meanwhile, our protagonist questions what he just did and wonders if he did it because of the memories of his childhood. Suddenly, the bus begins to glow, and when they open their eyes, everyone has been taken to another place. Everyone wonders what is happening or if it is even a dream. Then the goddess Vicius welcomes them as heroes, saying they are the hope to end evil. She explains that in Alien, when the demon army appears, they summon heroes from another world, and that 200 years ago, heroes ended the evil, but after all this time, the demon army has resurfaced, and she asks for their help to finish them. Everyone is still confused, but their teacher calms them down, saying that although he doesn't know what is happening, he is there, and for now, they should listen to the goddess. The goddess thanks him for this while Mimori looks around, wondering if he is really in another world. Kirihara asks what will happen if they refuse to help, to which the goddess tells them they will not be able to return to their world, causing Kirihara to ask if there was a way to return. The goddess explains yes, and the only way is by defeating the demon king, as they need his essence for the reverse summoning ritual. Amada, annoyed, tells the goddess that this is not their business, so the goddess kneels, begging for their help to save the world. At that moment, Sogu has a question for the goddess. How are they going to do anything if they are just common humans? The goddess tells them that they now possess powers after being summoned. But Oyamada still doesn't believe anything and tells her to stop talking nonsense. The goddess orders her guard to release a great wolf on a prisoner, where we see him being cruelly devoured. Then the goddess eliminates the monster using a fireball spell that surprises everyone. With this, the students are now convinced that they are in a world completely different from the one they knew, and now the goddess says it is time to learn their abilities. For this, she asks them to approach a crystal ball one by one to discover their level. We see how the ball shines depending on their power, and when Oyamada approaches and puts his hand on the crystal ball, we see it release a great shine, impressing the others with how strong he is. Now it is Kirihara's turn, and we see how his great power causes the crystal ball to explode. The goddess congratulates him as he is an S-rank hero, the highest of all. Tamada asks about his rank, which turns out to be A rank, which displeases him a bit for not being on the same level as Kirihara. Now the representative Sogu passes, and she is also S rank, and so the others continue to pass, obtaining high ranks. The goddess is amazed at this occasion, as she has obtained 3 S rank heroes. Finally, it is Mimori's turn, but with him, the crystal ball gives off a very low violet glow, which makes the goddess conclude that he is insignificant. Mimori asks her about his rank, but the goddess simply ignores him and asks for the next person to pass. Our protagonist walks away somewhat sad, as they still treat him like a background character even in another world, and he decides to accept it as his sad reality. Now Yasu steps up to measure his magic, and the goddess is impressed as he is emitting the same aura as the Dark Hero, the most powerful of all the past heroes. With everyone having measured their power, the goddess shows them how to open their menu to check their statistics, once again disappointing Mimori as his stats are quite low. But he realizes that his unique skill is inflicting abnormal states. The goddess explains that unique skills are different for each person and that they can learn more in the future. Oyamada is tired of explanations, so the teacher tells him to stop, but Oyamada mocks the teacher and tells him he has no right to speak like that to someone superior, as the teacher is D rank. Just then, the goddess informs them that there is a very important ritual left to do. For this, she calls Mimori, saying that his rank is E and he is the weakest of all. The goddess explains that low ranks are a burden to those of higher levels, so in the past, it was decided to eliminate them, but doing so in front of the other heroes could cause trauma or divisions among them. So, for that reason, it was decided to give the lower-level heroes a chance by sending them to some ruins using a magic circle, and if he manages to reach the surface, he can live freely. Mimori asks if those ruins are dangerous, to which the goddess tells him she doesn't know, but that they have sent dangerous criminals and many low-level heroes to that place and that no one has ever returned. To be nice, she tells him the name of the ruins, which are the ruins of disposal. Mimori decides to tell her about his unique skill of inflicting abnormal states, saying he can inflict paralysis, poison, and other things, hoping this will help him get out of this situation. However, the goddess reveals to him that this skill has no value because it almost never works, and if it does, it only works on low-level monsters and lasts very little time. Furthermore, for him, it would be worse since he is E rank. And as if this weren't enough, the goddess tells him it would be a waste of time to level up since his stats will never improve. Mimori attempts to protest against the goddess, but Kirihara stops him, saying to accept his destiny so as not to keep the others waiting, and we see how everyone tells him to leave quickly. Then Yasu extends his hand, and Mimori thinks of all the times he helped him, thinking he would be on his side, but Yasu tells him to treat him with more respect and mocks him, telling him to leave at once. Then the goddess announces the beginning of the ritual. The circle begins to glow, and she throws a leather bag at him while explaining that all heroes have a unique item, and apparently, that is his. A simple leather bag that only glows when imbued with mana. Suddenly, Sogu protests the goddess's decision, saying this isn't right since he is their classmate, but the goddess simply knocks her out with a blow. Mimori, angry about this, tries to attack the goddess with his Paralyze skill, but it has no effect as the goddess is always protected by a barrier, and so everyone mocks him. Mimori, full of frustration, remembers how he always repressed what he felt, so this time he decides to show who he really is, telling the goddess to prepare herself because if he manages to return alive, he will kill her. And so the ritual is completed, and he is transported to the ruins. He tries to look at his stats, but the system denies it due to lack of visibility, so he uses his bag and pours his mana into it, making it glow. He begins to walk through the ruins, encountering a skull and getting scared that they might be close. Suddenly, he dodges an attack from a monster resembling a minotaur. Mimori quickly flees from it as he senses its killing intent, until suddenly he trips over a stone and falls to the ground, realizing that he doesn't feel fear but frustration, and surrenders to his fate as he can do nothing. But then he remembers how everyone belittled him and realizes he wants power for revenge. In that moment, he uses his Paralyze skill, surprising himself. He quickly keeps running, wondering why his spell worked if the goddess had said it barely had an effect, or perhaps wondering if it was just luck or a miracle. But then he encounters another monster resembling a bird. Mimori, not wanting to die, uses his Paralyze skill again, surprised once more that it worked and realizing it isn't just luck, wondering if perhaps his magic is different from the others. He checks his stats and realizes he doesn't have much mana left to keep using his Paralyze skill, so he decides to cast poison on the bird, causing it severe damage, and thus he runs out of all his mana, so he decides to rest for a minute. However, the Minotaur appears again. The paralysis effect has ended. Mimori wonders if anyone will come to his rescue but remembers that no one ever helped him. He remembers his classmates and the goddess, how they belittled him. He remembers when he was beaten by his father and the hatred he held, deciding then to kill everyone to survive. Mimori wonders what will happen if he uses his mana to the limit, using Paralyze again, but the system tells him he cannot cast the same skill on the same target multiple times consecutively. It is then that he uses another of his skills, Sleep, and immediately casts Poison, thus finishing off the monster. However, many more enemies appear, and while he uses the mana that recharges, we see how it is impossible to beat them all. Mimori starts to feel dizzy as he is at his limit, and although he tries to finish everyone off using Paralyze, he has reached his limit. Suddenly, the system indicates that he has leveled up as the first bird monster has fallen and gave him a lot of experience. Additionally, he has gained many mana points, thus managing to use Paralyze several times until this skill also levels up, and now he can paralyze multiple enemies at once. Mimori continues attacking enemies with Paralyze until he can use it no more as there is a time limit, so he begins to use poison to finish off the rest of the monsters. Upon doing this, the poison skill also levels up, and Mimori is excited because, with this power, he is sure he can get out of this place. Mimori starts walking through the ruins, finding several skeletons of people and some useful things, but after a while, he gets too hungry, so he returns to the previous place to try to eat the monsters. However, the meat is too hard, but seeing its eye, he realizes it might be a soft part. He tries to eat it and quickly spits it out. Apparently, the monster's entire body is made of acid. Just then he realizes his leather bag is changing color, so he gives it more mana, and some food appears. Mimori, excited, wonders how this works or if it will even give him more, so for the moment he decides to ration the food. After several days, Mimori has continued leveling up but feels bad about the massacre of monsters he has committed. Then he remembers again when he was mistreated as a child and how it was his aunt and uncle who saved him and gave him the warmth of a family. Although he hoped to be like them, he realizes that even though they are monsters, killing them provokes nothing in him, thus accepting the person he is now. While continuing to explore, he finds a new zone and a strange gem. Upon giving it mana, a door opens, and he finds two skeletons who apparently were people who gave up and decided to end it together. Beside them, he finds some gems that could be useful on the surface. After checking several more rooms, he arrives at one where he finds a skeleton with a letter. The letter says that he was Anglin, the Great Sage, or also known as the Dark Hero. It mentions that he was sent here by the Goddess Vicius because Alien no longer needed him and considered him a nuisance, and that to get out of these ruins, he leaves everything he brought. This makes Mimori's desire for revenge grow, and he is determined to kill the goddess. Among the sage's things, he finds a book of forbidden arts with recipes for medicines and magical tools, plus a scroll of forbidden magic, and thinks it will surely be a great weapon against the goddess. Meanwhile, Yasu finds a note in the book that says, "Beware of the Soul Eater, he killed everyone." Mimori keeps walking until he finds what seems to be the door that will take him to the surface. However, it seems he needs something to open it. He keeps walking until he encounters the Soul Eater, a large face with a gem, and thinks that must be what he needs to leave. Mimori tries to use Paralyze, but before doing so, the creature manages to wound him, and while he thinks about what to do, the monster begins to move and starts expelling something disgusting from its mouth, producing several monsters that emulate the faces of the victims. Moments before falling to this creature, Mimori realizes that although the monster knows where he is, it doesn't attack him. Then Mimori screams that he cannot attack those monsters with human forms because it is different from fighting simple monsters. He even cries begging them not to approach him. Mimori realizes the monster is enjoying this greatly while he continues to ask for help. Just then, he uses Paralyze while mocking the monster for believing his act, saying that this happens to those who believe themselves stronger, and when they think they have victory secured, their greatest enemy appears, overconfidence. Finally, he finishes off the Soul Eater using poison, and we see all the souls it has devoured appear. They congratulate Mimori and hope their things will be of help to him. Additionally, the Great Sage asks him to kill the goddess, and although Mimori is not obligated to do so, he is determined to make the goddess pay for everything she did. And so, he finally manages to exit to the surface. Now we see Mimori's classmates fighting against some monsters to level up. We also see a girl named Kashima being forced to eliminate a monster, and after doing so, she cries for it and also remembers that some time ago she saw how Mimori helped a cat he found injured, and Kashima regrets not having been able to do anything for him. After this, Sogu wakes up remembering that the goddess hit her, then goes to confront her, but the goddess cries and apologizes for getting rid of Mimori. However, she justifies herself by pointing out that it is the policy of the Kingdom of Alien to get rid of weak heroes. Then she tells Sogu to hurry up and join her classmates who were sent to the forest to see if they could really kill monsters. Furthermore, she says that those who failed have already been disqualified and must be eliminated due to the kingdom's policy. Sogu is disgusted by the goddess's behavior and tells her to her face. However, the goddess simply laughs and says she tolerates her opinions as an S-rank hero. Sogu realizes that S-rank heroes are important to the goddess and tries to take advantage of it by offering a deal with the goddess. If she performs her job as an S-class heroine, then she will avoid getting rid of her classmates who have been disqualified. The goddess happily accepts her deal, worthy of an S-rank heroine, and offers to shake her hand. After their meeting, Sogu leaves the room, but all she can focus on is how cold the goddess's hands were. Now we see a girl with a cape running through the forest because she is being chased by some bad guys. At the same time, we see that Mimori, who has left the ruins, thinks that the first thing he must do is get a sword. Just then he finds a small slime being bothered by larger ones. Although it manages to stand up to them, seeing this, Mimori decides to help it by casting his Paralyze and poison spells against the other slimes. Mimori approaches the small slime and explains that he won't kill it, then congratulates and praises it for fighting back, and then continues on his way. But we see how the slime starts following him, and Mimori, seeing that it is an outcast like him, decides to adopt it as his companion. We see that the slime is very useful for helping him watch his back, and Mimori warns it that his goal is only revenge and asks if it still wants to accompany him. The slime is sure about going with him, so Mimori names him Piggy Maru, while it turns pink with happiness. Meanwhile, we see that the bad guys are about to catch the girl, so she decides to use her last resort. She begins to sing a prayer while dancing, filling her surroundings with a bright light and wrapping herself in magic, thus activating a skill called Grace of the Spirits to fight her pursuers. Unfortunately, they end up running into Mimori. They threaten him, saying to drop everything of value he has or he won't leave the forest alive. Mimori begs for his life, and when they are about to attack him, he was already ready to use Paralyze. Mimori is happy that his skill also works against humans while the others are still stunned by this, and since Mimori knows how disgusting these humans are, he simply finishes them off by casting poison on them. After this, while Mimori is inspecting their bodies, he still senses another human nearby. On the other hand, the girl no longer senses those who were chasing her, but she realizes there is one more human, and furthermore, this new person does not seem strong, but still, his aura is deeply unsettling. Suddenly she senses something close and brandishes her sword against a bush. At that moment, Mimori uses Paralyze on her from behind. He tells her that he had sensed her intent to attack, but her hostility is mixed with another feeling, so he wants to talk to her first. Mimori explains that he is lost, hoping to ask her for some information. He removes the paralysis from her mouth and warns her that he will paralyze her again if she tries to scream or chant a spell, showing her that he can cast paralysis multiple times on the same target. Before she answers his questions, the girl wants to know if Mimori encountered 4 guys. Mimori answers yes and that he finished them off. This surprises the girl, and she asks if he has other allies nearby who helped him. Mimori admits he has an ally but does not reveal it is actually a small slime. The girl thanks Mimori for eliminating her pursuers, and the helmet hiding her identity disappears. She tells him she will answer all his questions truthfully as thanks for being her savior. Mimori is surprised that the girl seemed to know he is telling the truth, but since he also feels the girl is trustworthy, they begin to talk. A few minutes later, Mimori learns that he is actually not in the kingdom of Alien but in a forest south of a kingdom called Urza. As a last question, he shows the girl the scroll of forbidden magic he obtained from the great sage and asks if she can read it. The girl looks at it attentively and informs him that it has ancient writing. Unfortunately, she cannot read it, but tells him she knows someone who could. This person is known as the Witch of Taboos and knows much of the forbidden knowledge, so much so that she was considered dangerous and kicked out of her homeland. However, the girl tells him that if he wants to find this person, he must go to the land of the golden-eyed monsters. Mimori thanks her for all her answers and tells her they are now even. He informs the girl that his Paralysis spell will be cancelled as soon as he moves away a bit, and so Mimori continues on his way. A few days later, Mimori arrives at the provincial city of Mills. The gate guard wonders if he is one of the mercenaries who have come to explore the ruins and lets him enter. He heads to a nearby inn and asks for a room, but the owner rudely warns him about the price. Mimori assumes it must be because of his dirty clothes, so he shows his money and tells the owner he just arrived from a long journey. The owner's attitude changes immediately, and he is warmly welcomed. When the owner asks for his name, Mimori gives a fake name, claiming to be called Hades. After this, our protagonist ventures out at night and discovers that the city is quite welcoming to outsiders and now wonders what his next step should be. His first goal is to decipher the forbidden magic scroll, which means he really needs to head to the land of the golden-eyed monsters and find the Witch of Taboos. Another goal of his is to use the forbidden art from the sage's book to improve Piggy Maru's abilities. Upon reading the recipe, it is mentioned that a key ingredient is the bone dust of a skeleton king. Furthermore, he just overheard that they are going to conquer a new floor found in the ruins of Mills, the habitat of the mentioned skeleton king, so the next day his destination is these ruins. Here, Marquis Harley thanks them for accepting his job and announces that their goal is to find the Dragon Eye Chalice located inside the ruins, and whoever brings it to him will receive 300 gold coins. Furthermore, he informs them that they are allowed to keep any monster materials they obtain. Mimori is particularly happy to hear this last part because it means he can take the Skeleton King's bone dust. While everyone was registering, suddenly a blonde adventurer is bothering a hooded girl to show her face. Mimori realizes it is the same girl from the forest, and we see how the aggressive adventurer announces to everyone that the girl must be Ashrain, the former captain of the now-destroyed kingdom of A. The surrounding adventurers hear this and begin to wonder if she really is the elf captain girl. Plus, this girl has a bounty. The girl insists he must be confusing her. Just then, the adventurer pulls off her hood to reveal her elf ears, but to his surprise, they were normal human ears. She tells everyone her name is Mist Barkus, and this adventurer, embarrassed by all this, runs away. After registering, Mimori was planning on going shopping when Mist approaches asking if he is also here to enter the ruins. Mimori answers yes and also warns her that the adventurer from before must be her enemy now for what he did, although she says she doesn't care about that now. Mimori asks the girl to help him not get ripped off when buying equipment to explore the ruins and is even willing to pay for her help. Mist admits she needs funds for her journey, so she accepts. After buying everything necessary and paying her, suddenly Mist falls to her knees, forcing Mimori to catch her, realizing she is very light and has dark circles under her eyes. Mist tells him not to worry about her and quickly leaves. After this, Mimori goes to the ruins, and while descending he suddenly sees people running out saying they encountered a lesser demon, but in reality, it was a small monster, somewhat insignificant compared to the monsters of the disposal ruins. Mimori easily finishes them off and hides so the other adventurers don't know of his existence. After exploring the ruins for a while, Mimori overhears a secret conversation. The adventurer from before who was humiliated by Mist is in the middle of asking bandits for a favor. He expresses his desire to make the woman who humiliated him in front of everyone pay and tells the two men to torture her to the point where she begs for death. Mimori decides to teach them a lesson and reveals himself to them. The blonde adventurer gets aggressive and orders the bandits to eliminate him. But before they could do anything, Mimori paralyzes and poisons them without showing mercy, affirming how satisfying it is to finish off people like them, and walks away, leaving them as food for the monsters. After this, he encounters a group of adventurers who claim that all the monsters in these ruins are dying strangely, and obviously, we know this is Mimori's doing. The adventurers have decided to return to the surface because they don't know if what is killing the monsters is an ally or an enemy, and before leaving, they advise Mimori to accompany them. But obviously he prefers to stay. While walking through the ruins after clearing the lower floors, he finally finds the Dragon Eye Chalice and suspects that if he takes it, the statue above it will move. So before that happens, he uses Paralyze and Poison, and now takes the chalice, seeing how pretty it is. Just then Mist arrives, and Mimori realizes she came here for the chalice, so he decides to give it to her for free. and although she tries to pay him, he refuses to accept, saying he actually came because there is a monster here that has something he needs, and he only found the chalice by chance while revealing a hidden floor. Mist offers to at least be his bodyguard, promising him safety. Mimori knows this girl won't give up, so he decides to accept on the condition that she avoids asking questions related to his personal situation, and so they head to the hidden floor. We see how Mist easily defeats a plant monster with her sword. Then Mimori asks her about the golden-eyed monsters, to which she tells him that those monsters grant experience and are ideal for heroes from another world to level up. She also tells him that according to legend, the Demon King radiates a special energy called Demon King's Essence, which turns monsters into golden-eyed ones, releasing the violent instinct of every monster, which seems suspicious to Mimori. After this, they head to the next room where Mist senses the presence of another monster nearby, although it is actually Piggy Maru, so Mimori decides to introduce him. After this, Mimori sets up camp there to rest, and seeing Mist's dark circles, he puts her to sleep with his skill, revealing her true appearance, realizing that she is indeed Ashrain the Elf Knight. After some time, Mist wakes up not knowing how she fell asleep. They continue exploring until suddenly they hear a strange sound, encountering the Skeleton King. Mist mentions he is a very formidable enemy and they should be able to defeat him if they break the platinum part under his jaw, as that is his weak point. She also tells him this monster is too much for a normal soldier, and Mist uses her spirit power, telling Mimori she would like him to keep it a secret, and since she might not be able to protect him, tells him to flee. Just when the monster is about to launch an attack, Mimori uses Paralyze and Poison, thus easily finishing off the Skeleton King and leaving Mist surprised. Mimori collects the bone dust he came looking for. Mist asks if that was his goal, to which Mimori keeps it a secret and tells Mist he will answer all the questions he can on the surface. Just then, Piggy Maru points in a direction. Upon approaching, they find something strange like a magical fabric, and inside this, he finds an egg that Piggy Maru wants him to take. After this, all the adventurers are surprised that Mist found the Dragon Eye Chalice, while Mimori walks away from the place without drawing attention. Mist catches up to him saying that tomorrow there will be a ceremony to give her the reward for the chalice, so since he will be free, Mimori asks to speak with her alone at night. Before saying goodbye, Mist thanks him again for giving her the chalice. Once night falls, Mimori prepares the monster enhancer for Piggy Maru with the bone dust, but at that moment Mist arrives. Mimori directly tells her he wants to hire her as a bodyguard, as he will now travel to find the Witch of Taboos and surely many monsters will attack him. Although Mist hesitates to accept, Mimori reveals he knows her true identity. He also reveals he used a skill to make her sleep in the ruins because she looked very tired, to which Mist tells him she uses the power of the spirits to change her appearance and in exchange must pay them with her desire to sleep. She also tells him that traveling together while hiding her identity would be a problem. Although, since Mimori already finished off the Holy Watchers who were chasing her, she trusts him, revealing her appearance and introduces herself with her real name, Sarah's Ashrain. Mimori also trusts her, so he equally reveals his true name, and the two shake hands, thus accepting Mimori's request. Our protagonist gives her a blue gem as payment, but she is surprised because this gem is very valuable, explaining that it is said these are only generated in legendary blue-eyed dragons, so its value would even exceed the chalice's reward. Mist tells him he shouldn't give it away like nothing and returns it, although Mimori tells her it is already hers and if she doesn't want it she can throw it away, so she has no other option but to accept. Now Mimori tells her they will continue calling each other by fake names, and since Mimori knows little about Mist, she decides to share more about herself, but Mimori interrupts saying he knows she is good and is not interested in her past, as he only cares about having a valuable bodyguard by his side, so Mist thinks Mimori is a good person. The next day, while they eat, the other mercenaries make comments like Mist let herself be seduced by a mercenary easily and more things like that, but Mimori simply ignores it and now asks Mist about forbidden magic. Mist tells him she only knows they are very ancient spells and that the Goddess Vicius prohibits this magic, meaning it is forbidden because the goddess says so, which makes Mimori think those spells are surely dangerous for her. After this, they say goodbye as Mist will attend the ceremony to receive her reward, and they agree to meet later at the inn. Now we see the other heroes from another world fighting against skeletons where a girl has lost her hand and Kashima helps her, hoping the goddess will heal her. Just then, Sogu protects them, but it doesn't seem to be enough until Oyamada and Kirihara arrive using their skills, thus finishing off the monsters, although this attack almost reaches the girls. After this, Sogu meets again with the goddess. She tells her she has already healed Sakura, the girl who lost her hand, and tells her she cannot use her magic on just anyone and only healed her because she is B rank. She also asks if she wants to join Kirihara's group, to which Sogu refuses, so the goddess tells her that her selfishness is a big problem. Although in reality, Sogu doesn't want to join because Kirihara doesn't care about others, so she says she will fulfill her duty as an S-rank hero in her own way. Then the goddess tells her she must train her classmates who didn't pass the tests, because if trained by an S-rank like her, they will be very strong. Although Sogu tells her they had already resolved that when she decided to fight for them, the goddess tells her she received a royal decree saying that heroes who do not fight must be eliminated and she cannot oppose it. So Sogu has no choice but to accept and thus says goodbye to the goddess. When Sogu leaves the room, the goddess begins to insult her. Back at the ceremony, the Marquis has called a mage who breaks illusions to verify that the chalice Mist recovered is authentic. After a while, we see Mimori worrying about Mist, as she hasn't returned and he doesn't believe she abandoned him, so he goes looking for her. On the way, he hears people saying that the woman with the chalice was actually the elf knight and that she fled to the dark forest. In the forest, we see Mist fighting against the Black Dragon Knights, the strongest knights in the world, explaining that the mage who broke illusions disoriented her spirit, thus revealing her identity, and for now, she cannot transform. Mist manages to defeat a knight, but then a stronger one arrives named Jason, the sub-captain of the 5 Dragon Knights. Mist realizes that now they no longer want to capture her alive, and without the spirit's ability, she cannot stand up to him, being knocked down. This guy wants to do inappropriate things to her before finishing her off, but just at that moment, Jason becomes paralyzed because Mimori has arrived, telling Mist that the time they promised to meet has passed. Mimori uses poison and sleeps so Jason doesn't hear their conversation. Mist asks him what he is doing here, to which Mimori tells her obviously he came to look for her. She tells him they should annul the bodyguard contract because the Black Dragon Knights will chase him, and returns the blue gem, to which Mimori says this is a hassle. Mist tells him it is because being with her will bring him problems, although Mimori meant it's a hassle to have to find a bodyguard better than her, and now tells Mist to take off her clothes, but this is so she can change and not be recognized so easily. Mist asks him why he acts as if their agreement still stands, so Mimori proposes she ask the Witch of Taboos to help her hide, as no one knows where this witch is, meaning it would be the perfect hiding spot. Mist asks why he tries so hard for her, to which Mimori tells her she reminds him of a certain person, and although they look nothing alike, they have a similar aura, telling her that leaving her stranded would be like abandoning his aunt. Now Mimori wakes Jason to ask him questions, and if he answers truthfully, he will have mercy. Mimori asks who wants to finish her off. Jason wants to see how the High Elf Princess reacts upon learning the truth, so he is going to tell him, but just at that moment, someone finishes Jason off. 4 knights have arrived who are out of range of Mimori's skills. One of them introduces himself as Civet Garland, the strongest of humanity and leader of the Black Dragon Knights. Just then, one of the knights tells Civet he shouldn't have killed Jason, although he tells them to shut up and take it as a command from Ordala. Mist is surprised to hear that name and learns that the former Sacred Emperor was the one who ordered her death, as he didn't want anyone to profane his princess after she escaped. This leaves Mist astonished. Now Civet tells her he will give her the chance to earn the right to live, as he wants a duel with her where if she wins, her life will be spared, saying he is very interested in her spirit power. Or at least he thought so a moment ago, because now he is interested in the boy next to her, so he asks his name. Mimori doesn't know how to react, he is even sweating, because the strongest of humanity is out of his reach and he knows he is more dangerous than the Soul Eater. Mimori tries to approach while speaking, but Civet orders him to stop. So our protagonist introduces himself with his fake name, Hades. Civet immediately realizes it is a fake name and that for some reason he must hide his true identity, One of the knights asks why he is so interested in the boy, and Civet explains that this boy feels nothing standing before the 5 dragons and might be waiting for an opportunity to attack despite knowing that if he tries, he would be eliminated instantly, finding this very interesting. It is then that Mimori wants to ask him something, saying he is surely looking for some enemy that satisfies him, as there must not be many strong opponents out there, and suggests the goddess Vicius of Alien. Civet tells him his land and Alien have good relations, and furthermore, he has high expectations for the heroes from another world summoned by Goddess Vicius, because with her blessing they can reach their maximum strength in a short time and could be great opponents. Mimori, attentive to everything Civet says, realizes that this man only wants to fight against strong opponents, and so Mimori already knows how to survive. Mimori offers to be the opponent capable of threatening the life of the strongest human, thus revealing his true name and that he is a hero from another world, leaving the knights surprised, including Mist. It is then that Civet feels the pieces fit together and why he was so interested in the boy. Mimori knows Civet has a great talent for detecting lies, so he tells him he is on a different level than the other heroes and that is why he goes his own way. Civet asks if it's because the boy is special, and he affirms he is, leaving it to Civet's interpretation, as we know he really is special but in a negative way. It is then that Mimori asks for time, proposing to postpone their fight and face him in the near future, saying that with the goddess's blessing he will be stronger and will finish him off in a short time. He even claims he will become powerful enough to kill the goddess Vicius. Civet asks how he intends to reach that level, revealing he will go to the land of the golden-eyed monsters and also makes it clear he will not disappear, swearing he will return to the goddess Vicius, although we really know it is to take revenge on her. Civet knows everything he said is true, thus accepting the proposal. But before leaving, they say they need to finish off Mist, but Mimori tells him he needs her to reach his destination and also that he intends to only use her to become stronger. Civet also accepts this, although the others do not like that idea. It is then that the knights march off and Civet waits anxiously for the moment they meet again. We see how Mimori is excited that his plan worked, as he managed to survive before the strongest of humanity, and just at that moment he casts Paralyze, making them fall to the ground. Mimori uses poison. Civet attempts to use his lance but cannot do so, although this leaves Mimori surprised because despite his combo of skills, he could still move, seeing that he is not considered the strongest of humanity for nothing. Just then, one of the knights falls and a signal is sent, so a squadron of knights arrives and Civet warns them not to come down and to defeat him quickly from a distance. However, this is of no use, because at that moment Mimori uses a new power he has obtained thanks to the monster enhancer for Piggy Maru. Although this takes time to activate and consumes many mana points, we see it is a sort of fusion, and now he launches several slime tentacles into the sky that are connected to his body, allowing him to use his skills at a distance. Mimori uses Paralyze, causing a rain of men and dragons, thus leveling up his skills and also unlocking 3 new ones. The first is Berserk, which incites violence. The second is Dark, which leaves them blind, and the third is Freeze. Although he assumes which one is perfect, for now, he doesn't use it as his mana points are running out. All the knights have fallen, but Civet is still alive. Mimori acknowledges he is truly impressive. Civet asks who he is, to which Mimori responds that he is a hero from another world, although not the kind of hero who saves the world, but rather an avenger. And so, finally, Civet, the strongest of humanity, has disappeared. And now Mimori and Mist prepare to start their journey.